How to protect yourself from ICE. I want to make this video in 2026 to explain all the different ways that immigrants, undocumented immigrants and documented immigrants, people with even green cards, can protect themselves from ICE. We're going to talk about different things that you can do to protect yourself should you get detained, whether at the airport or on the street or in your home or in your car, and different strategies that lawyers in 2026 are working on to protect people by filing a writ of habeas, by filing different applications with court to have clients be eligible for a bond, and then other applications that clients are looking at for their undocumented clients and vulnerable clients. Okay, so let's talk about all the different ways that you can protect yourself. And I'd like to kind of first start with explaining a little bit about knowing your rights when dealing with ICE. And this is only going to be really quick because a lot of people have been doing videos about know your rights. And I will say that I do a lot of videos on know your rights, but then I take it to the next level by taking action in federal court against ICE and suing them and filing a writ of habeas, or doing a hearing to get my client out on bond, or sometimes even if they're detained by ICE, doing an individual hearing to try to win their asylum case so they can stay in the United States and have a permanent solution. But let's go back and talk about knowing your rights when dealing with ICE. Again, ICE is a law enforcement agency that is part of Department of Homeland Security, and ICE agents, everybody knows in the news in 2026, they're in major cities. Everybody knows they're in Minnesota, but we've had ICE activity in Los Angeles, New York, different parts of the United States, and this administration has made it clear that they're going to give ICE free rein to do whatever they need to do to go around, ask people about their immigration status, and kind of question them. So the first thing I will say is that we're going to start off with talking about ICE in the streets, because that's where you may encounter them. And generally speaking, if you're walking down the street and an immigration officer comes up to you and asks you questions about, your immigration status, or what you're doing here, are you a United States citizen? It can be any type of question related to that. I would always tell my clients that have a short conversation with them and be really brief. And sometimes I will even tell my clients, especially if they're US citizens or green card holders, that say, officer, I'm a permanent resident, I'm a United States citizen. Are you stopping me for anything else? If not, if you're not stopping me, you're not detaining me, I'm going to leave. Am I free to leave? Ask that question. Because again, if you're a United States citizen, if you're a lawful permanent resident and you have no reason for ICE to kind of stop you or detain you, then you should ask, am I free to leave? I'd like to leave. Especially if you're on the street, you can leave and go by, all right? Now, the same applies if they stop you in your car, you're a United States citizen, you're a green card holder, and they say, hey, we want to ask you, want to talk to you. Be like, I'm a United States citizen, I don't have anything else to say to you. I'm a permanent resident, I'm a green card holder, I don't have anything to say to you. I'd like to leave. Are you detaining me? Are you arresting me? Am I free to leave? If they say you're free to leave, just go ahead and leave. Now, the second they also say for citizens and green card holders, especially those guys, be careful about what you say to them because they could use it against you. Don't ever lie to them about anything. And it's always best to remain silent and quiet because that is your constitutional right. Okay? Those constitutional rights apply to everybody, whether they're a citizen, they're a green card holder, they're undocumented. Those rights don't go away. And we're going to talk about rights in terms of, the home and other places as well. But on the street, in your car, you have a lot of rights, and you should avail yourself of those rights. Now, let's talk about another scenario where ICE will basically come across, undocumented people. What do you do if you're undocumented? And we're going to talk about people who entered without inspection. We're going to talk about people who came on a visit visa, an F1 visa, and what they can do and how to protect themselves and so forth. All right. Now, if you came without inspection, you came over the border, you're undocumented, maybe you have an immigration case going on in immigration court, or you have an affirmative asylum application, or you have some other type of case that's pending. I advise you try to keep copy of those documents on you. So if you come across ICE officers and they ask you questions and say, what's your immigration status? You could say, officer, my asylum case is pending. This is my status. This is what I have, some sort of case pending. So that way, hopefully, you can explain to them very clearly what your situation is, and that, we don't know. ICE officers, they're known in 2025, 2026 to arrest you, detain you. They've even arrested and detained people who have legal status, but we'll talk about how to get you out if you have some sort of lawful status and your detention's unlawful. But generally speaking, if you're prepared and you're very clear and you can articulate and explain to them what your immigration status is, that'll hopefully avoid you getting detained and being arrested by ICE and so forth. Okay, so again, whether in the car, on the street, keep your conversations, if you're undocumented, very brief and very clear, and say, officer, if you don't have anything else to say, I really would like to go. Am I free to go? And so forth. And be careful about what you say to them. Don't lie to them. They may ask you trick questions. I always tell my clients who are undocumented, when they work with me, to say, hey, here's my office's number or a cell phone number for my office. You can always call if you have a problem with ICE or anybody who's trying to stop you or detain you or something else. Okay, so in that scenario, having a lawyer will actually help you in terms of protecting you. So unlike just knowing your rights, you can always have a lawyer involved, and that lawyer can create a plan. And we're going to talk about the plans in a little bit as well. Now let's go to the other scenario in terms of being in your home, and then we're going to talk about it at the airport. In your home, you have a lot of protections and you have a lot of rights. Even if you are undocumented and you have no status and you enter the United States without inspection, your home is your castle. They cannot just break down the door and arrest you. Now, they have been trying to do that, and they've done it a couple of times, entering without warrants and arresting people. But there is a legal process and a recourse to be able to get you out, and the courts have upheld people, who are unlawfully detained or their constitutional rights are violated and so forth. So we can always challenge them in constitutional court. And trust me, I love fighting against ICE, and I love suing the government federal courts. I would be happy to talk to you and take your case if we have to do that. But in your home, they will knock, they'll say, let us in, we want to talk to you. You can say, do you have a judicial warrant to enter into this property or to search this property? And if so, please slide it under the door. If you don't have it, we don't want to talk to you. That's it. Say no more. Call your lawyer, or have somebody who's an American citizen. Hey, we don't want to talk to you, nobody else. And don't open the door, and just stay inside until they leave, and be careful, and definitely get a lawyer involved. Okay, so again, your rights in your home, you have a lot more rights and protections. They cannot literally come in, and don't open the door letting them in, because then they will say, well, you opened the door, let me in, so I came in and I arrested you. Okay, so that's something really important. I will also tell you that, be careful. Sometimes people live in mixed family homes, or lots of other people that are roommates. If one person, one of the people is undocumented and he has an arrest warrant, that they're executing the arrest warrant, they come in, they say, hey, we legally entered this house because a person lived there and we had a warrant for his arrest that was authorized, then they could make collateral arrests where they could arrest other people if they're undocumented. Okay, so that's important to understand. At the airport, you have less rights. They could go through your phone and they could kind of ask you questions in secondary screening. What I advise my clients is that if you are a citizen, you should be fine. You don't have to worry about anything. But if you're a green card holder, or you are on some sort of different type of visa, let's say it is a H-1B visa, or it's an F1 student visa, be careful, because what they find could be used against you. Right now, these days, the government is trying to go through people's social media accounts. So if you have things on your phone downloaded, you're posting things on social media, it could be something that could be a problem for you in the future when you apply for a green card, or your current status, which could end up being terminated if they find some negative things that they could try to use against you. Again, free speech is protected in the United States, but you have less rights in terms of what you're protected with at the airport. All right, so there are different things at different places, and I've covered kind of the different areas when you're going to be on the street, you're going to be in your car, in your home, and at the airport. So let's talk about what can you actually do if you are somebody in the United States and ICE detains you They pick you up, they take you into an ICE detention center. What I do a lot is that we file a writ of habeas, okay? And I'm going to explain in detail what a writ of habeas is. And it's a very famous writ. It's in the Constitution. And the general principle about a writ of habeas is that the government cannot detain a person without reason and without giving them a basis for the detention. And ICE will say, we're detaining you because we are trying to deport you. So sometimes ICE will detain people, but in reality, when they get detained, they have other defenses that they can raise. They can file some sort of relief in immigration court if they, if they can also ask for a bond hearing and be eligible for bond, because that's also really important in terms of being able to get out. And if sometimes you can do other things in connection to that, such as telling the judge that my removability, meaning my deportation, is not probable, and likelihood of the government succeeding on that, especially if you're over that 6-month period, is very low, and that you should be released, okay? So a habeas can be filed early if you can demonstrate to a federal judge that they had no real basis for your arrest and that you should be released. Or it could be filed after that 6-month period, because there are specific cases in the United States Supreme Court that say that if a person has been detained and that after 6-month period, it's not probable or likely that their removal is going to take place, the government can't just indefinitely hold a person. So this is a very powerful tool, and I've been successful many times in terms of filing habeas to get the client out, and also be able to, sometimes when you file a habeas in good jurisdictions like New York and California, the judge will basically put pressure on the U.S. Attorney's Office. And in one scenario, I was able to get a client out within a couple of days after filing the habeas, and he just had to have a regular ICE check-in in the future. But nevertheless, he was released from their custody and their detention. Okay, so there's lots of things to do. And the best thing, in my opinion, is to consider filing a habeas in federal court, because that's the only accountability mechanism that you can basically, force the government to say, hey, maybe you shouldn't have detained me, or if you've detained me, you can't remove me to the country that you're saying you're going to remove me to, and therefore I should be able to get released. So in addition to knowing your rights and filing a habeas, there's other things you can do in terms of your immigration court application or other applications you can file. So I want to tell clients who are undocumented, you can start working on your case now, even if you haven't been arrested by ICE or you fear that you might be picked up by ICE, because you can file affirmative applications. And even if you're undocumented, you entered the country without inspection, let's say you crossed over the border from Canada or Mexico a long time ago, you can file an I-130 petition if you have a U.S. citizen spouse, you have a U.S. citizen child, and then there's other things you can do. If you entered without inspection and you don't have an I-94, you can do something called a military parole in place, where you can basically ask the government to say, hey, this petitioner happens to be a U.S. service member, and they want to be able to help their father, their mother, their husband, their wife, their partner be able to get paroled in place, so they're eligible for something called adjustment of status to get a green card. Now, there's other applications you can file. You can, if you have an I-130 and you're not eligible to do parole in place, you can do other things connected to perhaps looking at waivers for forgiveness pertaining to their presence in the United States. So if they go back, they don't have to face a 3, 10, or 20-year bar and so forth. So there's lots of different options, and I want to explain those options to you to consider with a lawyer, to get waivers, to try military parole in place, or other things connected to that. And I'll also mention there's humanitarian grounds. So if you are genuinely afraid to go back home, you can raise asylum defenses. You can, if you were a victim of an abusive marriage to a U.S. citizen or green card holder, you can raise VAWA, V-A-W-A. And even if you don't have an I-94, you can win on asylum, and you can win on VAWA, or you can win on a U visa and be able to stay in the United States and get a green card. So I want to thank you guys, and hopefully you consider everything in the totality of knowing your rights, filing a writ of habeas, and filing affirmative applications to get a green card and protect yourself. Thank you.